Right, our next session I think you're going to find is really interesting as we speak to Ariel Jarvis on the use of Eastern practices, including halotherapy, to help understand and deal with the root cause of illness and disease. Ariel owns and operates Vitality Wellness Centre in Canada, and this place has helped many patients using a variety of treatments whilst respecting the 4 pillars as a foundation. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Ariel. Welcome, Ariel. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Erin, for having me.
You're very welcome. You have a very impressive list of credentials. I can see a lot of them on the wall behind you, actually. Would you like to give us a little overview on how you came to where you are today?
Yeah, so a little bit of background about me. I'm actually a homeschool kid. So my lovely mother homeschooled me from kindergarten to grade 12, and I started to really develop a passion for science. I found that it really struck an interest, and especially with the health sciences. So I started off doing my pre-med for Western medicine, and then I slowly lost that passion, and I actually desired to learn more about herbs and nutrition and body systems and the root cause and understanding how the body works in the terms of trauma and emotional healing. So that's when I started my venture from Western medicine into Eastern medicine. And now I do traditional Chinese medicine, acutherapy, licensed in, I'm a herbalist, nutritionist, and everything I do is homeopathic and holistic. And with my practice being Vitality Wellness World, I'm also fluent in sign language, so I can speak with my hands, which is really cool because a lot of individuals that are hard of hearing or deaf, they actually are not aware of their bodies. They don't really understand their bodies. They don't know what to do in terms of nutrition or helping them with their health or their symptomology. And so we're able to educate them with all that. And so with my practice comes a lot of education and awareness. So for me, it's not just write a prescription, here you go. It's let's take the time. I spend a full hour with patients and I explain their body to them, because who else is going to do it? They're not going to understand what's going on, and they're not going to be able to prevent certain situations or make a transition do nutritional intervention to stop the reoccurring symptom. And what people don't realize is you're made up of 75 trillion cells. Every single cell has something called a mitochondria. And so mitochondrial dysfunction is the root of every single disease, autoimmune, cancer, and symptomology. So if you can treat the cellular component and you duplicate that, you can treat the entire body, 75 trillion cells. Your cells have a 25-day turnover. Everything you eat and drink affects that cells, creating a new generation of cells. So you are what you eat, which is why I always talk about the 4 pillars. And so think of a table, okay? A table has 4 legs. You have a table with 4 legs, it can handle a lot of pressure. You take a leg away, you only have 3 legs. When life comes at you with stress, emotional stuff, it's not as strong. What about 2 legs? You're going to collapse 1 leg, you're done. And so what happens is people forget about the fundamentals. So I'm going to walk you through the 4 pillars of health. You do this every single day, and you will watch how your life goes from being in survival mode to thriving on a cellular level. Okay, so the first one is you have to drink 1 liter for every 50 pounds you weigh in water. So if you weigh 100 pounds or 150 pounds or 200 pounds, 1 liter for every 50 pounds you weigh. But not all water is the same. And we're going to dive into that later. Water is supposed to have a negative charge, and it has to have free floating electrons so that it can donate it to the positive charge in your body to support you on a cellular and electrical level. Your body runs on voltage. That's why you have a central nervous system. It's how your cells communicate with each other. So if you don't give your body that electrical charge on a cellular level, your light's going to be dim. You're going to have low Wi-Fi. You're not going to be able to communicate with yourself. You're going to be tired all the time. You're going to have weight gain. Your organ systems are going to be underactive. You're going to have underactive cells. So that's very important. So we're going to talk about water. Second one is sleep. So many people come in and they don't get enough sleep and they don't get good quality sleep. Get your phone out of the bedroom, turn off your Wi-Fi at night, and those little Fitbit things, you're just asking for atrial fibrillation. Get that thing off of you. So the second thing is 7 hours of uninterrupted sleep every single night, because in Ayurvedic and Chinese medicine, every single hour, your body goes through a phase of detoxification. The brain cleans toxins that you've consumed over the last 24 hours when you get into the 7th hour sleep. So you need to have at least 7 hours uninterrupted. The third pillar is nutrition and supplementation. What people don't realize is food is medicine, but you can overdose or underdose. So by not eating the right foods, you can become deficient, and then those cells are not getting the building blocks they need to help the immune system or the hormonal system or whatever that might be, or you're introducing toxicity, GMOs, pesticides, herbicides, glyphosates, starches, sugars, rancid fats, the list goes on, creating a carcinogenic toxic sludge that now your body has to kind of get out of the body. And so that's going to put more stress on the body. The fourth pillar is exercise, movement. You need to move. And a lot of people sit in front of a desk all day in front of a computer. You have to have a balance in life. So yin and yang. You have to make sure that if you have a job where you're just sitting, you have to find a hobby that is movement, something to kind of balance it out, because your lymphatic system does not have a pump. So what happens is the blood, your cardiovascular system, is parallel to the lymphatic system. So all the toxins from what you eat and drink and absorb through the skin goes through the cardiovascular system, gets dumped into the lymphatic system. And if you don't exercise and sweat, it builds up in your nodes, and you can have risk factors associated with that. What are those risk factors? Cellulite, lymphoma, the list goes on. So you have to constantly be cleansing. Your skin is your biggest detoxing organ. Everything coming out from the gut is coming out through the skin. So being really mindful of that. So if you have a pen and paper, I'll go through them very quickly. The right water, and a lot of it, 7 hours of sleep at night, nutrition, trace minerals, vitamins, and exercise. And exercise is also great for not just cellular mechanisms and functions, but also detoxification, but also regeneration. Because remember, your cells have a 25-day turnover. You want to expel waste constantly through your breath, through your sweat, through your bowels. It's very important. And so people that are active every single day in some form, dancing, cleaning your house, gardening, the list goes on. Your body now is cleaning out those toxins from the lymphatic system, and exercise actually has been proven to reduce and prevent 13 different types of cancer. Also secrete serotonin, dopamines, and oxytocin, which is going to help you with cortisol regulation and melatonin production. So there you have it.
Wow, that is a lot of information there. But as you say, it kind of comes down to those 4 factors: the water, sleep, diet, and exercise. Now, you mentioned sleep, having 7 hours uninterrupted. I can't remember the last time I had 7 hours uninterrupted sleep, whether it's children, animals, having to go to the toilet in the night, waking up because you're sore. Does that count as well? Or are you talking about from when you kind of first go to sleep, you might get 2 hours and you might wake up, go back to sleep? Or are you saying 7 solid hours, nice, uninterrupted?
It's a great question. I'm saying 7 hours uninterrupted, but you can have up to 15-minute breaks. So if you are woken up for whatever reason, as long as you fall back asleep within 15 minutes, that 7 hours continues. If you're up longer than 15 minutes, the circadian rhythm restarts, and you're back at square one, and you have to start the 7 hours again.
Wow. Okay, that makes sense. Now, you said you were going to tell us something special about water as well. And I know we've had this conversation before, because I was drinking my water and you said, well, I know you're drinking water, but it's probably not the right water. And that really intrigued me. So can you talk us through that?
Absolutely. I'm actually very passionate about water because I've seen what it does in my clinic and what it does for my patients. So unfortunately, the whole world used to be blue zone water. We used to drink water that actually was alive, rolling off the mountains, rushing through the rivers and the streams. And so it used to have a negative charge and a high pH because it was hitting all the rocks and it was developing a lot of minerals and a lot of antioxidants. And so that's what was replenishing our acid load. That's what was balancing out our pH of our blood and our muscle tissues and keeping the integrity of the skeletal system, which is the storage of all the alkaline minerals to prevent you from having bone decay, which is known as arthritis, osteoporosis, the list goes on. So we're noticing a rise in all these things: bone issues, blood, cardiovascular, muscle, degenerate, like the list goes on. Our cells are not happy. And what people forget and they overlook, and this gets overlooked because it's so easy to overlook water, is people, one, don't drink enough, and two, don't drink the right water. And so if you think about water going through the pipes, through the city, and then what do they do to the water? They add chlorine. Well, chlorine in the water is meant to kill all bacteria cells. You are more bacteria cells than human cells. Your entire ecosystem, where your serotonin gets made, your hormones are balanced, your vitamin levels and mineral levels, all your nutrients is absorbed through the endothelial cells that line the intestinal wall. All of that gets disturbed as soon as you throw in chlorine. All of that gets disturbed as soon as you change the molecular charge. The reason why is because your cell, the mitochondria, can only absorb negative charged water. You are designed to absorb negative charged water. But when it goes through the pipes, it becomes positive. Acid, inflammation, disease, cancer is positive. Milk, dairy, yogurt, gluten, sugar, drugs, medications, alcohol, coffee, positive. Organic produce, negative, right? And so we're going to jump into water, because the other thing is, in 2003, Peter Agree actually got a Nobel Prize for the discovery of aquaporins, which is a little tiny pore in the cell, and it's charge sensitive, which means only negative charged water can go in. Water is a nutrient and a transporter, which means everything you eat, all your good nutritious foods, your fruits, your vegetables, when you have water throughout the day, that water is a transporter. It's bringing that nutrients into the cells to fight free radical damage and oxidative stress so that you don't get cancer. So what do we do to combat that? We fight fire with fire. We drink positive charged water, which blocks the absorption of these nutrients into our cells. It actually promotes the free radicals and oxidative stress. And then our lifestyle is stressful, and our diet and everything else, you don't have a fighting chance. So now you're just playing, you don't have a tool. So when we introduce negative charged water through a medical device that we have here that can hook up to your tap, and as the water goes through, 1 cup of this water is donating, 1 cup. I want you to think about this for a second. 1 cup of this medical water is donating 700,000 electrons to support your cellular system against free radical damage. So to put that into perspective, that's like consuming 10 pounds of blueberries or 700,000 cups of green tea.
That's a lot of cups of green tea.
A lot of blueberries.
Yeah.
That's 1 cup. That's the equivalent.
Wow.
We've actually put together a YouTube video. Everything I'm saying is backed up by science, credibility, and other professionals in their field. So everything I'm saying, you can actually watch a YouTube video on our YouTube to learn more. But this is so incredible. So what the water does, it's a machine, and the technology hooks up to your sink. The acid water comes in, goes through a filtration system, gets rid of all the contaminants, all the garbage. Then it goes through 8 metal plates, which has 230 watts of energy that actually split the atom. So the molecule. So what it does is it creates the negative and the positive to go on two different separation. And it does that 8 different times to make sure that you are only consuming negative charged particles. So what happens is you have 2 pipes, the top one and the bottom one. The bottom one is all the acid waste, which is the positive, and the top is all the negative. When you pour a cup of this water, it's actually kind of cloudy and you can see bubbly a little bit. You start drinking it, you can keep drinking it, you don't get bloated. Okay. You know, have you ever had it where you like did a crazy workout or something, went for a run, and you were so thirsty and you drank a big bottle of water and then you felt sloshing in your stomach, that's because your stomach has something called a pyloric sphincter. That sphincter is closed shut from the stomach when there's acid in the stomach. As soon as there is an alkaline solution, that pH is it's a sensitive system. So it's pH sensory system. So it opens up as soon as the solution in the stomach's alkaline, and then everything rushes into the small intestine for proper absorption so that you don't burn up the walls lining the intestinal tract. We don't want acid going in there. And so what happens is people start, whenever you're hydrating properly, your body's mostly alkaline. As soon as you physically start chewing your food, your brain sends a signal to your stomach to secrete hydrochloric acid and pepsin. That food that you're swallowing starts to break down in the stomach. And then when you're all done eating, the pancreas gets a signal to send bicarbonate into the stomach to buffer the stomach to make it go from acid to alkaline. Once it's alkaline, then the pyloric sphincter opens up. All that broken down food goes into the small intestine for absorption for vitamins and minerals and etc. So naturally, and I don't know if people remember this, but with our grandparents, they always said, don't eat and drink at the same time. Yeah. The reason why is because that is the only time that you have acid in your stomach. That is the only time that you want that acid there. It's going to break down your food. It's like a fire. You don't want to put water on a fire. So you never want to drink water and eat at the same time. But you can drink water right before, and then no water, and then right after, about 30 to 45 minutes, depending on what you've eaten and how much. And the beautiful thing at this is the water, when you start drinking our medical grade water, it's negative charged. It goes right through you. It flushes you. So we do water detoxes here. And don't worry, you don't have any accidents, but you flush the kidneys. So it's great for kidney stones. You're flushing the lymphatic, the muscle tissues. We had a patient here, and we have tons of testimonials on our YouTube, patients where they've had a stroke and they've come in a wheelchair. We actually had someone who, unfortunately, he had a stroke. He was in a wheelchair and he had no feeling, and he actually wet himself in our first visit. And he said he'll never walk again. His doctor said he'll never walk again because the brain is not communicating. There's no communication. I said, I'm going to get you walking. I got him on the water. I changed his diet, got him off the starch in 4 months. And we have a recording. He was walking in. He was actually able to tie his own shoe, do his own hair. He had no feeling in his arm before. He couldn't even move it. And now he's doing his own hair. He was so excited. We've had patients with stage 3, stage 4 lymphoma. We've had patients where they've had H. pylori or autoimmune or colitis or diverticulitis, Crohn's, like the list goes on. Because at the end of the day, what is the root cause? Mitochondrial dysfunction on a cellular level. Treat the cell. The body is made up of 75 trillion of them. The body gets better.
Wow, that's incredible. Now you're talking about negative charges or negative ions. Now, just circling back to why we're all here today, which is for halotherapy. And halotherapy provides negative ions as well, doesn't it? So are you able to tell us a little bit about the positive effects that negative ions from the halotherapy can have on the body too?
Absolutely. Do you ever get that sense where when you're kind of stressed, you go to the ocean and all of a sudden you feel calm? Negative ions have the ability to take the body from the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight, and put it into the rest and digest just through ionic change. Your entire central nervous system runs on vibration of energy. Energy is charge, positive or negative. So the more positive you are, the more you're in fight or flight. The more negative you are, the more you're in the parasympathetic, which is the rest and digest and repair. So with negative ions, when you do halotherapy, which is our salt therapy, it is like a little globe, like a snow globe. You go in, there's salt on the floor, the walls, the roof, comes from the Dead Sea. And you sit there, and it's a 45-minute treatment. We turn on a fan and you just breathe in this air, and it has slightly negative charged salt particles. What that's doing is it's going in your nasal cavity, into your sinus, prefrontal cortex, all down into your esophagus, into your lungs. Now remember, your lungs are 75% water, and they are expanded through the diaphragm. And so what people need to realize is when you start doing the negative charged water, the negative charged salt, what it's going to do is it's going to break down the mucus that's built up in the sinuses or in the respiratory system. Now, mucus is not good for the body. It is the body's way of producing a defensive mechanism to protect the nerve endings from what you're consuming or from bad pathogens that are invading your body. But mucus is not good for you. But why does the body make it? Because of your diet. If you're consuming a diet full of high starches, high sugars, or you are dehydrated, your body's going to make mucus, dairy, things like that. So if you are creating a lot of mucus in the sinuses or in the respiratory system, mucus is an environment where it's sticky and where it's a protective area for bad pathogens to thrive. So you're more susceptible to getting bacteria, infection, viruses, the list goes on. Now remember, those are live bacteria. They poop, they pee, they throw off the pH. Those particles actually embed itself and create inflammation. And so people that come in with bronchitis, pneumonia, emphysema, COPD, snoring, seasonal allergies, they do salt therapy with us, halotherapy, it's all gone. And so we have an incredible efficacy here at the clinic. We have patients coming in and they just do salt. That's it. And they've seen tremendous change. It's not just one session though. You need to do about 10 to see a difference, but it is pretty incredible and it's relaxing.
Yeah, I think, again, you've touched on a point right there about you don't just do it once, and that's for everything throughout life. And, if you don't make time for your own wellness, you will have to make time for your illness, won't you? And that's very, very true. Yeah. And you talk about the fight or flight, and it's funny, like I see people coming into my salt room and they're all kind of like all tense and wound up a bit, or maybe they're not feeling very well. And when they come out of the salt room, they're like almost floating out. It's absolutely incredible, and I have to put a lot of that down to the reversing of the charge as well. They've come in very highly positively charged, and we've just given them a huge dose of the negative ions, and out they float almost. And when I speak to people about that, they almost can visualize, I think, themselves, that is what's happened. I've come out nice and calm. So it's all very, very interesting how this all works together. Very, very interesting.
People forget that you're just a ball of energy. You are.
Yes, that's true. And a lot of cells. Yes. Yeah. Wow, I think we could probably talk to you all day about all this kind of thing. I know we're on a bit of a tight time scale, so this has been hugely, hugely interesting. And if anyone wants to find out more about what Vitality Wellness do, there is a link. There'll be a website link there, and Ariel is one of our guest speakers, so you can also connect with her today online. But thank you so much for taking the time out to share your knowledge with us. And we wish you all the best with your business, and keep on helping all those people.
Thank you so much, Erin.